iZotope's Music Production Suite 4 is definitely something you should consider getting, and in this video I'm going to give you my top 5 reasons why. Hi folks, I'm Mike, and I hope you're well. Now, I've been a fan of iZotope products for quite some time now. Not only do they help you improve your sound, but they also focus on workflow, and I find that one of the most important aspects of what we do when we're mixing and mastering. So recently I got hold of their Music Production Suite 4, which is absolutely jam-packed with some of their best products. Now, there's actually too much for me to talk about in one video, so I've decided to focus on my favorite 5 features of the Music Production Suite 4. I'm going to be going through them in reverse order, starting off with number 5.
5.
So in at number 5, we have a new kid on the block, Reverb. Now, this is one of the latest plugins released by iZotope, and they've included it here in the Music Production Suite 4. I did a full review on this recently, so if you want to see that, follow the link in the description down below. But I'm just going to give you a quick overview here to kind of whet your appetite. Now, with this plugin, you get quite a number of different types of reverb, and you can use up to 3 of them at one time, and then use this really nice organic interface to blend the 3 of them together. So I've got loaded up here in blue an early reflections reverb, and then in pink a plate reverb, and then in this kind of peachy orange color a large chamber reverb. So let's have a listen to the reflections, or the early reflections reverb here in blue. We'll just have a quick listen now.
I will play you so.
And then we have the plate reverb down here in pink. Let's have a listen to that. And then over there in the bottom right corner, we have the large chamber. Let's have a listen to that.
I will play you so.
So we can then go ahead and obviously blend those 3 together. And as I say, it feels really organic, very, very natural. You just use your ears until it sounds like what you want. Now, I think one of the keys to getting a good reverb sound is to use EQ. If you're not using EQ with your reverb, definitely learn about that and start doing it. We've got 2 EQs in this plugin. We've got a pre-EQ here. Now, this is often very useful for getting rid of some of the low end, perhaps hyping some of the high end, so that your EQ doesn't get too muddy. And then we have a post EQ where we're just EQing the actual reverb itself, not the whole signal. So with the pre-EQ, we're just EQing the signal going into the reverb, but we're leaving the dry signal intact. And then, as I say, a post EQ here. Now, if we want some finer control over these 3 different EQs, then we can open this panel here and you'll get lots of controls for those various EQs, and you can switch to different types of EQ here. Okay. Now, iZotope in recent times have been making use of assistants quite a lot. So we have this Reverb Assistant here, and it's a common theme that you're going to see in some of the other things which I mentioned in this video. The idea, I feel, with these assistants is to get a really good starting point really, really quickly. I think this is helpful if you're experienced, but it's especially helpful if you're really new to recording and mixing. So let's have a look at this Reverb Assistant here. I'll just click on that, and it's going to ask us some really straightforward questions. What kind of style do we want? Do we want it to be realistic or very dramatic? So I'm going to go very dramatic. And then in terms of the size of the environment let's have a really large, extra large environment, in fact. And then it asks us to choose between these tones. So we've got clean, dark, bright, and airy. I'm going to go for airy. I'll click on that. Then I click on next, and all I have to do then is play my track. Now, it's doing a few clever things here, but mostly it's setting up that pre-EQ so that it doesn't get too kind of muddy and out of control. And the other thing it does is it does some unmasking. This is basically a way of getting the reverb out of the way of the dry signal so that we make sure our dry signal remains clear. Okay, so I'll stop that process now. I'll click on accept, and that's what it's come up with. Okay, it's come up with this pre-EQ, this post-EQ, and we can then go ahead and make changes to it ourselves, especially using this blend control, as I say.
I won't let you go. You will never know.
4.
So in at number 4, I have Neutron 3 Advanced. And although I have this in at number 4, I wouldn't mind betting that some of you would actually have it in at number 1 because it's got such a vast array of features and some really interesting ways of doing things. And I'm going to take a look at a couple of the more cool features for you right now. Now, first of all, we're looking at Neutron here applied to a drum bus, okay? I'm going to be doing some processing on that first of all. So let's just have a quick listen to see how that drum bus sounds without anything being done to it. So there's a number of different effects that I could apply to this. So we've got an equalizer there already, but if we click on this plus symbol here, you can see that I could add a compressor, an exciter, a gate, a sculptor, which we'll be looking at in a moment, or a transient shaper. So quite a few different choices there. But I'm going to go ahead and use the Mix Assistant. I'll click on that now. I've got a couple of choices here. I could use track, enhance, or balance. We'll look at that later. I'm going to enhance this track. So I'll click on next with that selected. Then I'm going to select the type of instrument. I could have it on auto detect. It does a pretty decent job, but I'm just going to go ahead and manually select percussion and then drums. So it knows it's dealing with some drum sounds. It's targeting that kind of sound. I want the style to be fairly upfront, but the intensity to stay on medium. I'll click on next, and then I just have to play my track. Now it's going to go ahead and do some wizardry there and start to sculpt the sound. I'm going to fast forward the video now until it's done that. Okay, so it's done its magic. I'm going to click on accept, okay, and you can see that it's added 4 different things in there: the sculptor, the equalizer, an exciter, and a compressor. Let's just have a quick listen to see what it's done so far. Okay, that's fine, but I just want to tweak it a little bit, okay? And the main thing that I'm going to use here is the Sculptor. That's the thing that you can see on the screen at the moment, and this is a very interesting kind of little plugin in itself. Now, what is the Sculptor? Well, I've heard it called a spectral shaper, or I don't know what that means really, and then other people have sort of said that it's almost like an EQ divided up into many, many different parts, and then with each part targeting a particular sound. I guess that was a reasonable explanation. I prefer to just look at these things in practice. So we have 3 main controls which you can see here. We have this, which is really adjust the intensity of the processing, or how much processing is being done to the signal. I'll put that right down the bottom. We'll blend it in at the moment. Then we have a tone control, which really goes between the high frequencies and the low frequencies and sort of emphasizes either of those. And then we have the speed, which is the speed with which the plugin is reacting to the sound. So I'm going to play this drum track, and I'm going to start off by just adjusting this intensity here. Let's have a listen. Okay, so I'm really hearing a difference there. That's very, very nice. I'm just going to play around with the tone. And I'll leave the speed where it is. Now, what constitutes a good sound depends very much on what you think you want to get and what you think the song needs in this particular case. Now, I think that's going to be reasonably okay for this song. Of course, I'm doing it in solo, and I must say, really, you shouldn't do that. I would adjust this sound in the context of a whole track. However, I just wanted you guys to be able to hear what the Sculptor is doing there, which is why I've done it in this case in solo. So that's a really nice way to shape your sound. Now I'm going to switch over to something called the Visual Mixer. Now I've got this applied to the master bus on this particular song. And this is a really interesting way of getting a sort of nice static mix with your song. Now, it may look at the moment as if not much is going on there. Not much is going on, but you can see there's this kind of oval in there. Actually, that's kind of a bunch of ovals all stacked on top of each other. Now, these represent different channels in my mix. Now, the reason it can see them is because I've applied some iZotope plugins to those channels. Now, if you just want it to be able to pick up on one particular channel and be able to adjust the volume and the pan of it, you can use the Relay plugin, which comes with the music production suite. Okay, but in this case, I've used a number of different plugins. I've used quite a few Neutron plugins, in fact, on different channels and on different buses. I don't actually want to use all of them here. I've used Nectar on a few tracks here. I'm just going to get rid of those, and then I'm just going to use these ones which are left. And I can go ahead and do a kind of a mix by pushing things up if I want them louder, down here if I want them quieter, and left and right for panning. Let's have a listen. That's a really interesting way of sort of putting together a static mix. Now, the other thing that you can do, and you're going to see a theme developing here, is use the Mix Assistant. This is very, very interesting indeed. So I'll click on the Mix Assistant here. Now, I need to select which of the tracks where I have iZotope plugins added, which I want to use in this mix. So I'll just go for backing vocals, bass, drums, main vocals. Again, I'll ignore those Nectar plugins. I'll go for Fairlight and piano here. Okay, then I just need to go ahead and begin listening. Oh, actually I can't do that yet because I need to select a focus, and my focus actually is going to be the main vocal. So I'll select that, and now I can begin listening. So I'll just click on that button and play the track. Now, what I do recommend here is that you do play the whole track. In fact, they're giving you that tip here, and that way you're going to make sure you capture all of the different instruments at different times, and it's going to determine a really good starting balance for you, hopefully. So let's let it play all the way through, and I'll fast forward the video again. Okay, so I've finished with the track. I'll click on Go to Results, and the first thing that we see is this mixer here. Okay, just a very straightforward, basic mixer. It makes it very easy. You can just have a quick listen, and has it done what I wanted it to? Are the vocals up front? How are the bass and the drums sitting in there? Let's have a listen. I should mention it's very typical at this stage that the whole thing is a lot quieter. I think they need to do that to kind of accommodate the mix. Of course, you can push it up again when you do your mastering or on your master phase. So let's have a listen again. Now, I still think that needs to be up a bit higher. Let's push those drums a bit. Now, if you feel like anything hasn't been picked up in the correct classification, because it's kind of taken those different instruments and it's grouped them into these basic classifications, you can edit that. So you just go to Edit Classification like so, and then you can go ahead and just correct anything that wasn't quite right. Okay, you can do that there, obviously. So I'm going to accept that. Now, this is the mix that it's given me at the moment. Now, I can go ahead and save that or create a snapshot of that. Okay, I'll click that like so, and then I can go ahead and play around with this again. I really think those main vocals should be in the middle, huh? Make them nice and wide. Okay, that's pretty cool. I'd like to save that one as well. So I'll just click on that and save that as a preset. Let's just try a different thing again. Okay, we'll click on that. So now we've got those sort of snapshots, and we can sort of go between them and compare which of those mixes we really like. Let's have a listen. So the visual mixer as a part of Neutron, I really think gives you a different perspective with mixing, and a really nice, simple place, to be honest with you, especially if you just kind of mostly use buses, you know, which is the way I tend to mix anyway. Have everything routed through to some basic buses so you're not dealing with 30 or 60 tracks at a time, and grab your static mix and do it as quickly as you can, in fact, using your instincts. And this is a great tool to use.
3.
So for many of us, a big focus of our music is vocals. So it's handy to have a tool set which is focused at processing vocals. And that's why I have at number 3 with Nectar 3. Now you can see when it first loads up, we have the pitch correction module there, we have an EQ, and we also have a compressor as well. But we could also add in here a de-esser. We'll often be using that. Delay, very, very useful for vocals. Dimension, not so useful, but you do get chorus, flanger, phaser. There's some modulation effects effects. EQ, as we say, you get a gate. Harmony, which we'll take a look at in a moment. Reverb, obviously very, very important for vocals, and also saturation as well. But what I'm going to do with this particular vocal that I've got here is dive in and, of course, use the Vocal Assistant. Are you seeing a pattern emerge here with iZotope products? So I'm going to use the assist part here, click on next. And then I'm going to choose what kind of vocals I want or what I'm dealing with here. So I just want a modern vibe here. That's fine. And I'll also keep it to a moderate intensity. Then I'll click on next and play my track. Okay, so after some wizardry there, it's come up with a kind of suggested start. So I'll click on accept here. You can see that we do have the pitch correction in there. It's put a gate in there. It's got an EQ there, de-esser, a second EQ, and also scrolling up here, we have a compressor and then some reverb. Let's just see what it's come up with, okay?
I won't let you go.
Not bad.
You will never know. I will.
So obviously, as I say, with these assistants, they're there to get a good starting point, and then you go on from there and you tailor it to just the way you want it. Now, just for fun, what I want to put in there is some harmonies. Can we create some harmonies on the fly without having to get the vocalist in again? Let's try that. We'll click on plus here. I'm going to insert that harmony. I'm just going to push it a little bit back in the process here. I'm not exactly sure where to put it. I'll put it just after this first EQ. That'll be fine. Now, I'm just going to quickly go back to where the pitch correction is. I'm just going to set my key. So I know this is in A minor, so I'll go to A minor there. Then I'll go to the harmony. Now I've got two different harmonies here, one for the left channel, one for the right. Always have some nice little bit of difference between them. So I'll just adjust the delay a little bit, and I'm going to make them thirds. Okay, so I'm selecting third there. There's all sorts of different ones you can select. I'll go for thirds there. Hopefully this is going to work out okay. Let's have a listen and see what it's done with the harmonies. I'm going to unmute everything else, or unsolo this track, so that you can hear this in context. Let's have a quick listen.
I won't let you go. You will never know.
Just like that, we've got some harmony. So that's next to 3 in number 3.
2.
So there's nothing that's going to ruin your day more in production than pops, clicks, crackles, buzzes, all kinds of artifacts on your audio. You're going to have to reach for all different kinds of plugins to try and repair it, and often with limited success. So enter RX8 here at number 2. This is like a Swiss Army knife for fixing all kinds of things in your audio, and it really does seem to have some magic about it. Now, I did a full review on this recently, so check out the link in the description for that if you want to see a lot more than I'm going to show you here. I'm just going to show you 3 quick examples of common things that come up for me, which this has made very, very easy to fix. So the first thing, I'm going to look at guitar squeak. So this is where you're playing the guitar and perhaps you're changing chord and you get some squeaky sounds on the strings. Kind of unpleasant. It's nice to have a little bit there sometimes for authenticity, but really most of the time you don't want it to be too pronounced. So I've got a very pronounced one here. Let's just have a listen to this little example and listen out for this squeak as we change chords. Did you hear that? Listen again. So I've set up the squeak module here to get rid of that squeak. Just a couple of settings to play around with there. Nothing too complex. I'm just going to listen to that now, and I think it's gone. It's really kind of magical to me. I'm still amazed every time I listen to that. So that's one kind of thing you might want to get rid of. Another thing is kind of buzzes and things. Now this time we're going to be looking at this electric guitar here, and this has got kind of an earth buzz or something like that happening on it. So let's just have a listen to that. I've again set up a couple of settings here, just a couple of sliders. Let's have a listen to this buzz. I'm sure that can be quite a familiar sound to you guys. Again, let's have a listen. Oh no, I don't want to listen anymore. So let's see what this amp module has done to clean that up. It's really like magic, yeah. So an absolute lifesaver without kind of ruining the sound of the guitar in the process. And last, I just want to have a look at another common problem. This is where we've got some vocals. Of course, the singer has sung with some headphones on. Perhaps you chose the wrong headphones, or they had them a little bit off of their ear, as singers often do, and you've got bleed. Now, in this case, the singer was singing, that's me, with just a drum track in the background. Let's have a listen with the D bleed module off first of all, just to see how it sounds. Now you're only going to hear a short part of the vocal, and then you're going to hear that gap in between the vocal lines. That's where you get most of the bleed. How to fill your cup, oh, that's what we. Okay, have a listen again. Fill your cup, oh, that's what we. So what I've done with this one, I've taken the backing track, and that was just the drums. I've put that in there. Now it listens to that, it learns from it, it knows what to remove. So now let's hear it with that taken out. Now, just at the beginning of this example, you are going to hear a little bit of the drums. That's just to do with the preview mode here. It takes us a couple of seconds to kick in, but it actually does eliminate. And let's have a listen. How to fill your cup, oh, that's what we. Really, really magical. And you look, you know, sometimes when you're recording a really quiet track, if you've got a click going on there and perhaps there's just a vocal and another instrument at the beginning, that could be a real problem for you, and you may end up having to re-record what was a perfectly good vocal performance. So this is a massive time saver. So there's actually many components in the Music Production Suite 4. I had lots to choose from when I was putting together this top 5. For example, I could have chosen Stutter Edit 2, which you can see on the screen now, or even Total Balance Control 2. I use this all the time in my mastering, especially when my ears are getting a little bit tired. I could have chosen Insight 2. This is metering on steroids. We all need some good metering, especially when we're releasing to lots of different formats and we need to know exactly what levels we're reaching. And you can just see stuff in all different kinds of ways in this plugin. Really love that one. I could have gone for Vocal Synth 2, or even the exponential audio plugins that you get here. I could have even gone for the 1-year subscription you get to Groove 3, where you get heaps of audio tutorials, including some of the things included in this package. I could have gone for any of those for my number 1 pick, but I chose something which I actually use all of the time. I'm going to tell you about that in a moment, but I just want to tell you, if you are interested in getting this suite, follow the link in the description down below. That's going to take you to Plugin Boutique. They always have great deals on their audio plugins, so definitely check that one out. And let's find out what I had at number 1.
1.
So in at number 1, I have Ozone 9 Advanced, and this was an absolute no-brainer for me because this gets a lot of use in my productions. So it had to be at number 1 because it's really in daily use, to be honest with you. Now, this does have quite a lot of different modules in it, and you can load them up separately. I've got the actual Ozone module here, but they all come as separate plugins as well, and you can see the list here. There's EQs, there's exciters, images, some saturation, all that good stuff. So even when you just want one of these things, it's often worth reaching for one of the things from this Ozone suite. Now, I'm going to do what quite a lot of people do, and I'm going to use the Master Assistant to go ahead and master my song using Ozone here. Now, I don't always do this. It can be a good starting point, but I'm sort of in a flow now where I kind of know which parts I want to use often and how to get what I want from them. But if you're just starting out or you're just lacking inspiration, then the Master Assistant's a great way to go. So I'll click on that now, and of course we have some simple choices here. I'm going to choose between modern and vintage. I'll go with modern. For the loudness and EQ, we have the choices between the manual setting here, where we can set it to low, medium, high, or we can choose a reference track. Now, I would recommend whenever you can go for the reference track. You're more likely to get a result closer to what you're aiming for if you do that. So a reference track is just going to be something which sounds quite similar to the music you're producing, and it's the kind of target that you're going for. The other thing is just the sort of destination, streaming or CD, and in 99% of cases, of course, now we're going to be going for streaming. We're going to be uploading this to Spotify, what have you. So I'll go ahead and I'll click next, and then I'll play my song. It's going to do its wizardry now, and I'm going to fast forward until we get to the point where it's finished. So it's done its dark magic thing. I'm going to accept the results and see what it's done. So it's interesting. It's put an equalizer in there at the beginning, quite a drastic equalizer there, quite a big low cut there, getting rid of a lot of low end, and then a nice sort of hype there in the sort of mid to high range there. Now, interestingly, it put in a compressor, and I saw it was sort of working with it, but then it decided it switched it off. It decided it didn't need any compression. I don't know why it decided that, but that may be something I may play with to tweak. Then we've got a dynamic EQ in there. Now, if we play what it's come up with, let's see what's happening with that dynamic EQ.
I won't let you go.
So it's almost like it hasn't done much EQing, but with 3 particular spots, it's decided just to control them a little bit. Interesting. And then one of the big things it's done is with the maximizer. I love this module. I use it absolutely everywhere because it really helps me quickly get to the kind of target levels that I want for the streaming services. So here you can see it set a target level of -14 LUFS, and then it's set the true peak value to -1 dB. That's what I would always do. And I think it's come up with a pretty decent job. Let's just do a quick before and after quickly. So I'm just going to bypass it here, and then let's just have a listen. Let me just make sure we are bypassed. Yeah, let's have a listen to the track before it did its mastering.
I won't let you go.
And now with it applied.
You will never know.
Okay, so it's certainly made it louder, and we're going to be meeting the targets we need to meet for our streaming services. Of course, we can go ahead and adapt that. So, for example, I often might want a bit of stereo imaging in there, so I'll just click on plus here. I'll go to Imager. I'll just drag that back there somewhere, perhaps just before the maximizer. In fact, I'm going to create some different zones here quickly so that I can do imaging across different frequencies. So I've got 4 different ones there. Now, I'm not going to do much with the low end. This is very rough. I'd normally spend a lot more time on it than this. So I'm going to keep the low end nice and narrow there. I won't do much down here in these frequencies, but I'm really going to hype these frequencies in terms of width up here. Let's just have a before and after listen again. So again, I'm going to bypass.
I won't let you go.
And then we'll switch it all on.
You will never know.
So of course I would go ahead and fine tune that, but I'm pretty happy with that. And as you can see, it's just taken me a few minutes to do it. A really quick process, especially when you're in a hurry to get something out like I often am. So number 1 is Ozone 9 Advanced. So which of these 5 do you think would be most beneficial to you in your mixing and mastering process? Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear your guys' perspective about that. Maybe you've already been using some of these products, so I'd also love to hear about your experiences with them as well. Now, if you found this video useful, go ahead and do me a favor and hit the like button. Do it right away so that you don't forget. And if you do like this kind of content in general, make sure you subscribe and ring the bell on YouTube so that you're notified about my other videos. Also, if you'd really like to help this channel out, consider becoming a patron. My patreon.com link is in the description down below. And for as little as $1 per month, you can help me help you by making these kinds of videos. And I'll see you in the next video.